What if the enterprise automation tools you've spent the last 3 years integrating are already completely obsolete?
Yeah, that is a thought that keeps a lot of people up at night.
Right. I mean, consider the millions of euros spent, the extensive team training, all those really complex deployment cycles, and then suddenly the entire paradigm just shifts.
It really does, because
Oh,
traditional robotic process automation, and those rigid chatbots we are all trying to navigate, they are rapidly being replaced by agentic AI.
exactly. And here's a data point that really demands your attention. 73% of Nordic enterprises are actively planning to scale these autonomous systems this year in 2026.
Which is just a staggering number when you think about it.
It is. But the real surprise here, the epicenter of this massive architectural revolution isn't Silicon Valley, it's actually Oulu, Finland. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's a geographic shift that catches, a lot of people off guard.
Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we are exploring some really fascinating insights from an article by AetherLink.
Right, the Dutch AI consulting firm. They have three main product lines: Aetherbot for agents, Aethermind for strategy, and AetherDivvy for development.
Spot on. And for you listening, European business leaders, CTOs, developers, evaluating your AI roadmaps right now, Ulu is exactly the blueprint you should be studying.
Absolutely, because to understand why this matters right now, you really have to look at Ulu's DNA. I mean, this city was the heavy R&D engine for Nokia during the whole mobile telecom boom.
Oh, right, the golden age
Yeah.
of mobile hardware.
Exactly. But when the hardware market shifted, Ulu didn't just hollow out. It was left with thousands of world-class radio frequency and embedded systems engineers.
So they had this massive pool of highly technical talent just waiting to pivot.
Yeah, and they pivoted heavily into edge computing, IoT, and now AI. We are looking at a regional ecosystem that hosts over 800 tech companies.
Wow, 800.
Yeah, and they're driving a Finnish AI market with a projected 28% compound annual growth rate.
That is massive.
Yeah.
And they are backing that up with serious infrastructure capital, too. I mean, businesses in the region are leveraging the 100 million euro AI 1000 program to fundamentally overhaul their enterprise architectures.
Right. It is not just academic research anymore. It is heavy, real-world commercial deployment.
Which brings us to the mission for this deep dive. We are going to break down what agentic AI actually looks like under the hood.
Because, let's be honest, the term agentic AI is so heavily diluted by marketing jargon right now.
Oh, totally. Everyone calls their basic chatbot an agent these days. So
Yeah.
we're going to tear down AetherDivvy's multi-agent architecture to see how it really works.
And we'll also explore how European leaders can turn the strict compliance mandates of the EU AI Act into, an actual competitive advantage.
Yeah, that regulatory piece is huge. But let's start with the architecture. Let's isolate the differences between legacy automation and true agentic systems, keeping our developer and CTO audience in mind.
That sounds good. So if we look at traditional RPA, it operates on highly rigid API bridges and DOM selectors.
Right. I always think of RPA like a train on a track. It works beautifully, incredibly fast, right until a tree branch falls on the rail.
That is a perfect analogy. It relies on a perfectly structured, predictable environment. If a supplier changes a JSON payload format by one single character,
Or a web portal updates its user interface overnight.
exactly, the RPA pipeline just shatters. It throws an error and requires a human engineer to go in and rewrite the script. It is fundamentally brittle.
And chatbots aren't much better, right? I mean, they are stateless and reactive. They only speak when spoken to. You have to prompt them to initiate any compute cycle.
Right. But agentic AI completely severs that reliance on continuous human prompting. It's more like, to use your analogy, an autonomous off-road drone.
I love that. So if it hits an obstacle, it doesn't just crash and wait for a human.
Exactly. It calculates a new route and proactively finishes the delivery. According to the Deloitte Tech Trends 2026 analysis, true agentic systems operate in continuous loops.
Loops of perception, reasoning, and action, right?
You got it. They do not just execute a predefined script. They are given an objective, and they autonomously perceive their environment. They reason through the available tools, and they take action to close the gap between their current state and the goal.
What's fascinating here is how they achieve this structurally. I know they leverage protocols like MCP, the Model Context Protocol.
Yeah, MCP is huge for interfacing with external systems.
Let's pause and dig into MCP for a second, because that really is the linchpin for interoperability. For anyone architecting these systems, how does MCP actually change the game?
Think of MCP as the universal USB-C standard for AI agents.
Oh, that makes sense. Because historically, integrating this stuff was a nightmare.
Totally. Historically, if you wanted a large language model to interact with your proprietary SQL database, your GitHub repository, and say your Slack workspace,
Your engineering team had to write, maintain, and secure custom REST APIs for every single integration.
exactly, all that custom middleware. But MCP standardizes how the AI's context window communicates with external data sources.
So it allows the agent to dynamically discover the schema of a database on its own.
Yes, it understands what data is available and executes an action-like querying real-time inventory levels to draft a supplier email without any hard-coded middleware.
The agent is reasoning about which tools to use, and MCP provides the standardized socket to plug those tools into.
Exactly. It's a total game changer for developers.
Okay, I'm going to put on my cautious CTO hat for a minute and push back on the reality of this.
Go for it.
If we are talking about autonomous systems dynamically querying databases and making decisions across an enterprise, the risk profile seems absolutely astronomical.
Oh, it is. The primary vulnerability of large language models is, of course, hallucination.
Right, because if an autonomous agent decides to order 10 million units of a specialized microchip because it statistically predicted the wrong component based on a hallucination.
That is not a software bug. That is a bankruptcy event.
Exactly. So how do you actually deploy this safely?
Well, that is the single most critical vulnerability, and it is why no responsible enterprise plugs a generic foundational model directly into their operational workflows.
So what's the safety net?
The mechanism that neutralizes that risk is a RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. Foundational models hallucinate because they are improvising based on the statistical weights of billions of parameters scraped from the open internet.
Right. They're basically just highly advanced autocomplete engines making educated guesses.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But RAG completely alters that process by restricting the model's context. Before the agent takes any action, the RAG architecture queries your internal verified enterprise data.
So things like historical maintenance laws, specific CAD files, active customer contracts.
Yes, it retrieves that factual data and forces the agent to reason exclusively within that retrieved context. It basically anchors the agent's logic to your cryptographic reality.
Okay, but wait, let me challenge that assumption for a second. RAG only solves the hallucination problem if the underlying data is actually pristine.
That is a very fair point.
What if a company's internal files are an absolute mess? I mean, if their RG system retrieves a deprecated maintenance log from 2019 or a draft contract from SharePoint that was never actually signed,
Then you have a major problem.
doesn't RI just make the AI highly confident about the completely wrong answer? It sounds like giving that autonomous drone a highly detailed map of a city, but the map is from 1995.
You have just hit on the most expensive realization companies make when deploying AI. You are entirely correct. RAG is not a magic filter for bad data.
It's an amplifier.
Exactly, it is an amplifier. If you feed an agentic system fragmented, contradictory data, it will execute flawed decisions at a massive scale and speed.
So how are companies actually solving the bad data problem?
This is where the Ulu ecosystem is really proving its value. Startups there, like LOUE.ai, are not just building flashy operational agents.
What are they building?
They are deploying intelligent data management agents whose sole purpose is to ingest, clean, and structure fragmented enterprise systems before the operational agents are even turned on.
Oh, wow. So they are using AI to clean the data environment so the operational AI can function safely. That actually makes a lot of sense.
It is the only way to do it reliably. And we are seeing the results of that clean data approach in highly sensitive environments right now.
Yeah, I saw another Ulu-based innovator mentioned in the sources, QLive. They are running autonomous patient care scheduling in the healthcare sector.
Right, which is about as sensitive as data gets. They are optimizing resource routing based on complex medical parameters.
And in the enterprise marketing space, the AetherLink article noted that when agents reason over properly cleaned customer interaction histories, the conversion rates are jumping 22 to 28% higher than legacy marketing funnels.
Yeah, because an agent processing clean data doesn't just, trigger a generic email sequence on day 3.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It analyzes the specific customer's interaction history, right?
Exactly. It reasons about the optimal channel and messaging tone and proactively executes a totally bespoke engagement. It is the difference between automated broadcasting and contextual negotiation.
Theory is great, But let's see what happens when you drop this into a messy, real-world operation.
Let's do it.
The AetherLink insights detail a specific case study utilizing the AetherDivvy architecture that really grounds this. We're looking at a mid-sized manufacturing firm in Oulu producing industrial components.
Right, and they were dealing with a massive logistics headache.
Huge. They had over 40 major suppliers scattered across different time zones, and their procurement department was just completely underwater.
They were basically paralyzed by unstructured data, just a constant stream of natural language supply chain disruptions.
Exactly. The kind of data legacy RPA absolutely cannot process. Like, imagine a supplier sends a PDF invoice with a slightly altered table.
Or an email reading, due to unexpected port congestion, our shipment of aluminum casing will be delayed by 48 hours.
Right. An RPA script fails instantly there because it cannot parse the semantic meaning of port congestion.
So the procurement team was entirely reactive, just spending all their time doing manual data entry and damage control.
But the solution deployed here wasn't just a single monolithic AI model, right?
Yeah.
AetherDivvy architected a multi-agent system.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, a single agent handling an isolated task provides a modest efficiency gain. But real enterprise transformation happens through multi-agent orchestration.
So they broke the problem down.
Exactly. AetherD deployed specialized agents. They had supply chain monitoring agents, quality assurance agents, and procurement agents.
And these agents operate with distinct system prompts and specific tool access.
Yes, and they communicate with each other through structured data payloads.
Okay, walk us through the mechanics of how these agents actually collaborate when a real disruption occurs, like that port congestion example.
Sure, so the supply chain agent is continuously monitoring inbound supplier communications via email and vendor portals. It ingests that natural language email about the 48-hour delay. Then it uses its RGED pipeline to pull the current production schedule.
So it understands the context of the delay.
Right. It calculates that this delay will halt the assembly line on Thursday. But the supply chain agent doesn't just flag an error and stop.
What does it do?
It generates a structured context payload detailing the shortage and passes it directly to the procurement agent.
And what does the procurement agent do with that payload?
The procurement agent instantly queries the enterprise database for alternative pre-vetted suppliers of that specific aluminum casing.
Wow, just instantly looking for a backup plan.
Exactly. It analyzes the historical pricing, the current contract terms, and the promised delivery speeds. It drafts a negotiation strategy and prepares the purchase orders.
But it doesn't execute the final signature autonomously, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that is a crucial point.
The human handoff.
Precisely. The multi-agent system synthesizes the entire crisis, the delay, the production impact, and 3 actionable alternatives with cost-benefit analyses, and routes it to the human procurement manager.
That is incredible. The human is no longer digging through spreadsheets for 5 hours to understand the problem.
Right. They are reviewing a fully developed strategic brief and basically just clicking to approve the optimal path forward.
They built a digital procurement department that operates 24/7. And the metrics on this implementation are just staggering.
The numbers really speak for themselves.
Within a 6-month deployment window, the manufacturer achieved a 31% reduction in procurement cycle times.
31% is massive in manufacturing.
And they saw an 18% improvement in on-time delivery rates, and they eliminated 240 hours of manual data reconciliation per month.
Those 240 hours represent human capital that is now reallocated from repetitive data entry to actual strategic supplier relationship management.
Which is where human beings actually add value.
Yeah, exactly. But as transformative as this architecture is, there is a massive regulatory hurdle that European CTOs must navigate before deploying anything resembling this.
Oh yeah, the elephant in the room, the EU AI Act, specifically Annex 3.
It's a huge factor for anyone operating in Europe.
If you are building multi-agent systems that handle employment screening, essential services, critical infrastructure, or healthcare, you are operating in legally classified high-risk territory.
And the penalties for getting that wrong are severe. Fines for non-compliance can reach up to 7% of global annual turnover.
Which could end a company. So how does an enterprise deploy an autonomous procurement system without walking into a massive compliance trap?
Well, it requires a fundamental shift in software engineering philosophy. Many generic global tech vendors treat the EU AI Act as an annoying post-deployment checklist.
Like an afterthought.
Exactly. They build a black box model, deploy it, and then try to reverse engineer an audit trail when regulators inevitably ask questions.
That approach has to be legally indefensible under the new framework.
It completely is. AetherDivvy's AI lead architecture flips this entirely by treating compliance as a foundational engineering constraint.
So they build it in from the ground up.
Yes, they build transparency, human oversight gateways, and strict auditable boundaries directly into the agent's core architecture from day one.
So if a high-risk agent makes a decision, say automatically rejecting a supplier's bid, the enterprise is legally obligated to explain the exact parameters that led to that outcome.
Right, and you cannot explain a black box. This is where the integration of frameworks like Oviedo's digital product passport becomes absolutely critical.
I saw that in the article.
Right.
Many Ulu tech companies are adopting this standard. Let's demystify that for the developers listening. How does a digital product passport actually attach to an AI model?
It basically acts as an immutable cryptographic ledger bound to the model's outputs.
Like a flight data recorder for the AI.
That's a great way to put it. It hashes and records the exact origins of the training data, the specific RA context window that was active during a decision, the performance benchmarks, and the system prompts.
So if a regulatory auditor, or even just an internal compliance officer, asks why an agent made a specific routing decision on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.,
The passport allows the enterprise to retrieve the exact data weights and logic pathway used at that exact timestamp. The system is entirely auditable.
when you engineer transparency at that level, compliance basically ceases to be a defensive legal burden. It transforms into a strategic asset.
AetherLink actually refers to this as a customer trust multiplier.
I love that phrase. Because think about it, if a European enterprise is evaluating two vendors, and vendor A offers a generic black box AI tool with opaque data routing,
And vendor B offers an Ulu-built multi-agent architecture with a digital product passport and inherent EU AI Act compliance.
the risk assessment makes the decision completely obvious.
The defensible, regulated architecture wins the enterprise contract every single time, and the market data supports this heavily. Customized, locally compliant solutions are outperforming generic vendor implementations by 40 to 60% in both user adoption and measurable return on investment.
So what does this all mean for the business leaders evaluating their AI roadmaps this quarter? Let's distill these architectural shifts into some actionable takeaways.
Sounds good.
Do you want to start? Yeah, I will start with the implementation strategy. My core takeaway from the AetherLink insights is that you do not need to rip and replace your entire enterprise architecture to capture this value.
Right, you don't have to boil the ocean.
Exactly. The most successful deployments follow a bounded, highly strategic roadmap. You begin with a 1 to 4 week assessment phase.
Just looking for the right use case.
Yes, you are looking for workflows that have high manual cognitive load, but operate on reasonably structured data. Then you isolate a pilot program, like the supply chain monitoring agent we discussed.
And you prove it works there first.
Precisely. You prove the architecture in that bounded environment. By establishing a clear pilot-to-scale pathway, enterprises are regularly achieving measurable ROI in just 3 to 6 months. You mitigate the risk by starting small and scaling based on proven metrics.
That is a solid approach. My top takeaway, though, addresses the foundational layer we discussed earlier, data readiness.
Yes, the garbage in, garbage out problem.
Exactly. We established that RAG architectures are the critical defense against hallucinations, but an agent's reasoning capacity is strictly bound by the quality of the data it retrieves.
So if your organizational knowledge is trapped in siloed, unstructured databases with conflicting version histories,
Your multi-agent system will simply automate bad decisions at an unprecedented velocity. Enterprises absolutely must treat data governance as an urgent prerequisite, not an afterthought.
you have to do the unglamorous work first.
Yes, you must clean your schemas, standardize your APIs, and index your internal knowledge base before you introduce agentic logic. The IQ of your AI is entirely dependent on the health of your data environment.
It all comes back to the infrastructure. You cannot build a next-generation autonomous system on a foundation of digital quicksand.
Which leads to a broader and arguably more complex implication. This raises an important question regarding the future of enterprise operations.
Okay, lay it on us.
Well, we open by noting that 73% of Nordic enterprises are scaling agentic AI right now. As we transition from single tasks to multi-agent architectures that interact across organizational boundaries, We are facing a totally new dilemma.
What kind of dilemma?
What happens when your autonomous procurement agent negotiates a complex, legally binding contract with the supplier's autonomous sales agent, and they optimize a set of terms at machine speed that your human legal team wouldn't have authorized?
Oh, wow. The liability and the contract law implications there are just massive.
Exactly. The technology is rapidly outpacing the organizational frameworks. The challenge for CTOs and business leaders in 2026 isn't just selecting the right model context protocol or implementing RE.
It is fundamentally retraining your human workforce.
Exactly. Your managers are no longer going to be doing the work in traditional software interfaces. They must be upskilled to manage, audit, and course-correct entire fleets of digital employees.
So the required skill set shifts from operational execution to strategic governance.
It does. And you have to ask yourself, are your teams prepared for that transition? Because the competitors deploying these auditable agentic architectures are already redefining the pace of business.
The structural shift is happening right now, and the window to adapt is rapidly closing. The tools are available, but the strategy and the data hygiene really must be executed flawlessly. For more AI insights, visit AetherLink.ai.